Join me now, Mr. Chuka Mordes, CEO, Ellah Lakes PLC. Join me right here in the studio. Great to have you, sir. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, I guess you're giving us like a dirty December extension. You know, for
You could
this,
call it that.
we call it that.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, what informed this extension?
Well, primarily to give more time to our institutional investors to come to the offer. We've had a great deal of interest from the retail side. It's been very significant. And it's just to extend it to get institutional investors into the offer.
Right. So we're getting retail, you know, rushing in.
We're getting both, but
Both, okay.
you know, just given the nature of institutional investors, just doing the analysis. But we're very confident about closing the offer.
Right. All right. So let's look at some of the So we're trying to raise 235 billion naira. That's the offer size.
Yes.
Price at 12 naira 50 per share. 18.8 billion ordinary shares. We see the use of proceeds there. Acquisition of ARPN, CPO, processing mill, land development, and working capital. So, talk to me, expand on this.
I mean, the major
proceeds.
aspect of this transaction is the acquisition of the oil palm plantation in Edo State. So that puts an additional 22,000 hectares on our balance sheet. Behind Presco and Okomu, we should be third on the listed markets on the Nigeria Stock Exchange. So it's transformational to the nature of our business. It significantly improves our bottom line, increases our margins. It takes us to revenues of over 30 billion naira next year. So we expect it to be dilutive to current shareholders, but in terms of value accretion and capital gains, very significant.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that dilution, how worried are you about that?
I mean, we had an EGM. Our shareholders understood exactly what we're doing and the value that accrues to them. So I think everyone's happy with the structure and the nature of the transaction. It's an all-equity deal. There's no debt involved because we thought that's the most optimal way of financing a transaction of this size. With the credit environment at 24, 25% interest rates, it just made sense to raise equity.
All right. So, 235 billion. Are we going to hit this amount?
We expect to, yes. We're very confident of that.
Right. And if we don't hit it?
It's about $170 million in USD. I think, given the nature of the market, given the nature of the environment, I think using the benchmark of Presco, Okomu, and seeing what they've done in terms of share price appreciation, but also in terms of profitability, margins, it's a very good deal. And I think we've priced it at 12.50. Our year high is about 19 naira, because I think it gives a lot of upside to investors and new investors. So I think it's a ground floor opportunity for investors who want to come in at the price. So that makes us very confident.
Right. So, talking about the top priority projects,
yes.
they're aiming for, you mentioned the acquisition of ARPN, CPO, processing mill. What else should we expect from this?
What we should expect is Ellah Lakes going across the entire value chain in palm oil. So we will produce CPO, crude palm oil. We'll produce PKO, palm kernel oil. We'll produce PKC, palm kernel cake. And that's all from the mill that we install over the next few months. But I think going up the value chain, we intend to go into refining, so oleins, stearins, and everything along the value chain of oil palm. Right.
Yeah. And, looking at 2025, if you're looking at the previous years, before now, how would you describe, doing business, in 2025 and, raising capital?
I think you need to raise capital in order to expand. I think there are two forms of growth that we've always envisaged. Is the organic growth, which we had in our first plantation in Edo State. So we planted there, we installed a mill this year. We got debt financing from the CBN, so intervention financing, which is what enabled us to install the mill. But I think you want to go to a different level where Presco, Okomu, so that requires a significant amount of equity, and that's why we're doing this capital raise. But I think once we install the mill, in many ways it's a transformational transaction for us. With the oil palm price, with the revenues that come on, I think we're looking towards being $1 billion company inside the next 5 years, and I think it's a very achievable objective, especially in the current Nigerian environment.
Right, I've seen some of the images and videos
Yes, so that's the mill we installed this year. the CPO mill. That's the nursery. So we intend to plant just over 1,500 hectares in Iguelaba estate in Edo State over the course of the next season. So we're expanding quite significantly. This is just all organic growth, discounting the acquisition.
Right, and looking at the share price,
yes.
At this point, year to date, up about 337%.
Yes.
That's for Ellah Lakes. Month to date, I think we're at about 16%. Yeah. Closing price yesterday, 13 naira, 70 kobo. So I guess investors had it good.
I'm glad they have, and I think given the number of investors we have, it's gratifying to finally add value for them after Ellah Lakes' performance over the last few years. So we expect that's going to help our capital raise. Current investors have seen 3x in terms of the capital growth over the last few months. We expect when we start paying dividends next year, so they'll have capital growth and dividend income. So we expect that to grow the company.
In the next 6 to 12 months, say, fast forward, capital raise is done, you've hit your target, maybe exceeded it, at this point, what concrete milestones should investors look out for?
I think two things, the diversification, because we're doing livestock and we're doing oil palm. I think in terms of concrete achievements, we start paying dividends next year, so shareholders should expect to get dividend income, and that's one of the long-term objectives that we've been trying to achieve over the past few years. We want to expand and grow a significant company inside the Nigerian agribusiness space, and I think that's very possible and very doable.
Right. Yeah. And what kind of feedback have you been getting from the institutional investors? What's the word on the street?
I don't know about the word on the street. Well, all the bilateral meetings we've had have been very encouraging. So we're very happy with the progress that we've been making. Very happy. Yeah.
All right. So if the offer, let's just say, worst case scenario, it's not fully subscribed, what next?
Well, one, it doesn't have to be fully subscribed. We've placed in some contingency. We've raised some internal financing already. We've raised money internally in debt-to-equity conversions earlier in the year. So we expect to close a significant part of the transaction, whatever the case.
Right. Yeah. And, looking at, agribusiness in Nigeria, in 2025, how optimistic are you, going into 2026?
Very, very optimistic. I think specifically in our sector and our line of business, if you look at the two leading companies, there's Presco, there's Okomu. They've made incredible profits over the last 2-3 years. The oil palm market is very strong. Palm oil consumption is growing in Nigeria. And I think as the macro improves, the population increases, consumption grows. So even if we double production locally over the next 2-3 years, there's still a significant market, and we'd still have to import palm oil into Nigeria. So we're very confident about the general macro and the sector in particular. And I think as we grow industrially, the industrial uses of palm oil, its derivatives, it's a very, very, very large market. And I think there's space for 10, 15 Prescos with a market cap of over $1 billion in Nigeria. So I don't view them as competition. I think we view them more as complementary in the space, because there's so much space to expand this particular business. So we're very, very optimistic about the future.
Right. And you did mention, when it comes to, capital raising, some look at debt. And you did mention, interest rates are really high. Very high. But we had a cut. This year we also had a hold next. Does that give you, confidence in 2026 that, where the rates are going to, go down?
I mean, it's a function of two things, right? The general macro environment and the inflationary outlook. Inflation has been declining over the last few quarters. So we expect if inflation goes below the current rate by a few more basis points, then we expect there should be more cuts in interest rates over the long term. I think it depends on the view the CBN chooses to take over how much liquidity they want in the system, over how aggressive they want to cut rates. But as long as the trend is downwards, the trajectory is downwards, it's encouraging. I think rates can get to a place where we would participate in the debt market, but at the present time, it's just not optimal for the kind of growth we want, which is why we're doing this fundraising by equity. But I think, if we go to the low double digits, and hopefully, I think the power economic growth, we want to get to single-digit rates, but that's primarily a function of inflation. And I think if we can get there with the macro outlook improving, then it's just increased growth for all sectors, not just the agribusiness sector. So it's dependent on a strong macro, it's dependent on growth, and I think that lifts everyone at the same time. So I think we're very optimistic, we're very hopeful. If we carry on this current trajectory, then we should get there in 2025.
And looking at the global space, and right here in Nigeria, we're seeing inflation, tending downward, but it seems there's still that affordability problem. People still say, when you go to the markets, consumers are still strained. Yes. Even though we're seeing inflation, the numbers, the data, tending downward. How confident are you that the consumer will stay strong or get strength, in 2026?
Well, consumer prices are driven by a variety of things. I think in the food sector, infrastructure, which is one of those externalities that cannot be controlled by private companies. If we improve the infrastructure from farm gates to market, that means more goods get to market. That means affordability can be dealt with because there's more of a surplus in terms of the market. So I think that's a combination of private sector, public sector working together to try and deal with certain issues. But that's just one of the factors that affects the pricing. I think if inflation keeps on trending downwards, then it'll be more affordable for consumers in the food sector, and that's generally across the board. If we have a stable exchange rate, then just importation of heavy equipment, industrial goods, it means we have a long-term outlook with stability. So I think the macro is also very important in these things, in affordability for the common man. So government policy translates downwards to these things, affordability. So I think it's a function of also policy issues for government.
And I'm hoping that we can buy, a bag of rice cheaper.
I'm hoping you can buy a drum of palm oil cheaper.
And drum of palm oil.
Yeah. And
cheaper.
Cheaper palm oil is not necessarily a bad thing for us, because if we have cheaper palm oil, increased volumes, it means better margins. So there are a variety of ways I think that the market benefits from even cheaper food and cheaper goods. It means less inflation. I mean, the inflation basket is comprised of also food. So if food price inflation goes down, it means inflation goes down in general. So if we can get more goods to market, it means we're selling at lower prices, better margins, but consumption increases because it's more affordable for the consumer. So that, I think, is the objective for all of us.
All right. Yeah. So we have an extension for this offer. I've called it the Dirty December offer.
Yes, the Dirty December offer.
At this point, what do you have to say to investors? At this point.
No, I think what we've said consistently. I think at 12 naira 50 kobo, it's a great price. It's, I think, ground floor entry in comparison to the other listed entities. So at 12.50, we're very, very confident that it's attractive to the retail investors and the institutional investors. So we're confident of closing.
All right, we'll keep tracking this offer. Thank you so much, Mr. Chuka Modi, the CEO, Ellah Lakes PLC. Thank you very much today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll look at the Imo State 2025 Economic Summit, what played out and what it means for that state. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.